Talking Cougar basketball here on this edition of the Cougar Coaches Show. Head coach and athletic director of Columbia College, Bob Burchard, welcome.
Thanks, Cosmo. It does feel like basketball season right now around here.
It certainly does. Hard to believe there's only a dozen games left as you look at the schedule. It's really hyper speed. We're in mid to late January and full swing into conference play. And like I said, 12 games left on the regular season schedule.
Well, it's really fascinating. It doesn't seem like many, to be honest with you, and it seems like once you clear the football season, then everybody's interest peaks in conference play and basketball, and it gets down to a very small portion of the schedule. But that's the way the calendar works, and people really start getting excited about late January, February, and of course into March play.
And with the conference, with the American Midwest Conference expanding to new teams, your two latest opponents, both the newest members of the conference with Mid-Continent and then at Freed-Hardman. The Mid-Continent game was here at home, not one of your better shooting nights, but it was a game that you guys gritted through, fought through, and got the W at that point to go 7-0 in conference play. Let's go back a little bit to that victory here at home against Mid-Continent.
Well, we didn't shoot the ball very well, Cosmo, and unfortunately that's been a trend for us. We're trying to get that turned around. Mid-Continent hadn't had a very successful season, but I think changed as teams do and evolved. I like their talent level and their physicality. Played a ton of zone in the game, and typically when teams do that, you need to either make your good look shots or get the ball at the rim more than we did in that game. I think we were very fortunate to come out on top.
And then the road trip to Freed-Hardman for the first time there, and that was quite a Saturday. You guys ended up being the national game of the week in the NAIA. They were undefeated, and unfortunately they still are undefeated. That was a back-and-forth ball game. You guys had a great run to start the second half, and just they got their run, as it seems to happen all the time in basketball games. It's the game within a game, and 4 or 5 games within a game, it seems like. And unfortunately, by the final whistle, they were the team that came out ahead with the W.
Yeah, it was a really interesting trip. Cosmo, as you mentioned, it was first time there, ever playing there. First time that we've been down to the Jackson, Tennessee area. Freed is a national program, both on the men's and women's side. They approach everything that they do a lot like Columbia College, and in terms of just the environment of the game. Had a nice crowd there. So we had our eyes wide open, trying to learn new things. I think the easiest thing for me to make a comparison is to our team last year with them. I think they are very deep. They're very athletic. We've got a fifth-year senior center who is extremely efficient. Not as big as Jordan Dressler, but Dressler-like in terms of his efficiency in the game. And we knew there would be swings, and there were in the game. I thought we played the start of both halves at a really high level. We just had a hard time sustaining that through 20 minutes of basketball in both halves.
And the rematch, I think it's February 22nd. They get to come here, the conference head-to-head on the road, and then at home. In that game, unfortunately, 37% shooting, whereas the Mid-Continent was 38%. And you mentioned, trying to get that turned around. How do you get that turned around? What is the mindset between yourself and Coach Brock in practice to try and get that?
Well, we shoot the ball a lot, Cosmo. Just in terms of our normal practice. So it's not necessarily about repetitions of shooting. I think it's being effective together. I think really through injuries we've had to alter kind of the makeup of our team, and so we've been not playing together as well as I'd like us to. I think some people are trying to take on a little bit more scoring role, and so their shot selection's not at the level we'd like it to be. The one thing right now about our team is we haven't had a real dominant scorer, and so we have to do it as a unit, and which means the ball has to move. You have to move it efficiently, and there's a couple of old basketball sayings that really fit in. the shooting percentage is normally directly related to passes per possession. And so our passes per possession have started to drop, and so has our shooting percentage. Norm Stewart, a good friend of mine, has a way of putting things in very simple clarity. And he says, if you're having a hard time making shots, get closer to the basket. And we need to get closer to the basket. We need to play more around the rim. And those are the things we've been working on. And hopefully, they'll pay off.
Cougars number 7 in the latest top 25 polls, 16-2 overall, 7-1 in conference after the loss to Freed-Hardman in conference play. And I was going to bring this up later, but since you mentioned Coach Stewart, the big event across the country and in college basketball, and we'll be here in your own gym this week and at Mizzou Arena on Saturday for the Tigers. There is the Coaches versus Cancer and the Suits and Sneakers event, and that all kind of started right here with Norm Stewart.
It did, Cosmo, and it's really a program that Columbia College has taken to heart through the Cougars versus Cancer tournament and this event as well. You're going to see basketball coaches across the country wearing their sneakers and their suits to bring about awareness, and there'll be many fundraising activities that go along with that. Our conference has really been a leader in the NAI, and with 100% participation across the conference. So our Thursday and Saturday games, so we can catch everybody on a home game, will feature the suits and sneakers, and hopefully lots of positive fundraising and awareness for the American Cancer Society and the Coaches versus Cancer program. Norm Stewart was the starter of that initiative. It has raised maybe $1 billion now. I mean, it's just a phenomenal number. And I think even more locally here, that his leadership with the Stewart Cancer Center at Boone Hospital is something that we should all be proud of. So this will be our week to do that, and we're going to have fundraising activities all across campus, Cosmo. We actually last year got all of the top administrators of the college in on it. And so everybody from the president through the administrative council will be wearing their sneakers and raising money for the cause.
And I like it because it gives me an extra excuse to tell my wife I got to buy a new pair of sneakers and see if I can get that one done. But this throughout the week with the suits and sneakers for Coaches versus Cancer. We'll come back, talk with more head coach with Bob Burchett about the schedule coming ahead, and also about a couple of the other sports at Columbia College and the athletic director role with Bob Burchett. Back after this, the Coaches Show continues on Mediacom Channel 22.
Congratulations on getting that new tablet. But when you have DSL,
it's always buffering.
your devices are only as great as your internet. That's why every day more people switch to Mediacom, because with speeds up to 20 times faster than DSL,
everyone can stream, download, and game at the same time.
Without constant buffering?
Exactly. That's always faster internet from Mediacom.
Cougar basketball in full swing for the Columbia College Cougars. Number 7 in the latest top 25 poll in the AMC Conference now at 7-1 after the loss at Freed-Hardman on the road. Some home cooking against Benedictine Springfield coming to town, and then a couple more road games. It's going to be a busy February. The month of January pretty light here, at least in Columbia on campus here as far as basketball, but February is the polar opposite of that. There's games every weekend, it seems like, except for one, I think, in February.
Well, it's an interesting the way the schedule came about this year, Cosmo, in that we got a lot of road games out of the way early, and while students were on break, and there was a lot of positives to that. At first, I was not real happy about it because you'd like to play some home games early in your conference schedule. But we got a lot of travel, a lot of heavy travel out of the way while we didn't have to take students out of school. And now the students are back. They're going to be able to see our teams play a lot in February, and we're excited about that. And as we already talked about, that's such a critical part of the season. So, right now you get into a swing, and from here on out, you're into a kind of a groove, into a pattern until the end of the season.
And some of those, and Mike Davis, I know we talked about this last week with him. He mentioned the same thing as far as getting a lot of that travel out of the way. And now down the stretch with some of this second time playing these teams, you get them at home, and that's always a benefit.
Well, everybody likes to play at home, Cosmo, and you feel like you have an advantage just because of comfort zone. I think the most interesting thing that you see happen, teams evolve across the season, and the length of the basketball season really mandates some evolution. You just hope you don't devolve,
Right.
and some teams do. And one of the interesting things that we try to do is to change, to add new wrinkles, to maybe a new look somewhere along the line, maybe a new defensive little wrinkle in there to change things up. We're all very studious about the game. Everybody has a film on every single game you've played. You get to know people, in terms of their tendencies. And so this evolution process really is an important part of the second round of conference play.
And that's something that we've talked about over the last couple seasons is Matt Brock with your assistant of that extra specialty in the technical side of things, game film on the guys' phones and iPads and things within minutes of one game ending, the scouting report and the homework begins for that next game. And with the way the scheduling works, a lot of Thursday, Saturday, they're quick turning around having to study for that next opponent.
We really are into a pattern now, and particularly when we play Thursday, Saturday games, we normally take Sundays off. Your Monday, we really focus on fundamentals and our conditioning, because you do lose conditioning over a week when you're just playing games. Tuesday, we combine our fundamentals with a bit of preparation. Wednesday's all prep, and then you play the game on Thursday. Then you prepare for your Saturday game, and then you start the cycle over. And somebody asked me if you really look at the big picture, and the coach speak is always you just play them one at a time. But to be honest with you, Cosmo, we really look at week segments. What do we have to get done this week? How do we organize our week? And how do we prepare for 2 games at a time? And because that Friday in between is really a compressed time period. So your Monday through your Wednesday, you're really preparing for 2 games.
Getting ready for the schedule, as we mentioned, only a dozen left, and it sounds on one hand you think, oh, that's a lot of basketball games, and then as you said, when you start breaking them down, sometimes 3 games a week, with a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at times. Before you know it, it's time to start looking at the bracket and figuring out where the AMC conference lies. I was asked this question, and I explained it as best I could, but with the new additions to teams in the conference now, you will have a regular season winner that will get the automatic bid to the national tournament, and then your tournament winner will also get that spot. What if the teams are the same? Then the runner-up in the championship, or how does that work?
No, it's actually the second place regular season.
Regular season, okay.
And so it really puts the emphasis on regular season play as opposed to tournament play. You really have 3 opportunities, I think, to make it to national play. Obviously, the first one is to win your regular season, and the second opportunity is through tournament play. It's our conference is really shaped up interesting. I mean, Freed, I think right now is proven that they're the top of the league. I think the rest of us are chasing them right at the moment. And there's a little bit of a kind of a jumble up, I think, in the middle of the conference. Very capable teams, and I think who can withstand this second round and keep themselves in a position to contend will depend on your consistency. And we've been pretty consistent to this point. Hopefully we can continue that.
Jeremy Nolan, Tanner Sutton are a couple guys that have been pretty consistent for you. Same with Wendell. And the injuries to Derek and to Zach Rockers, what are the prognostics on them coming back?
I think Zach's probably finished for the season. He's still in the boot and has been long-term, and we've gotten to the point now where he can get a hardship, and it's probably going to pay off for him personally to do that. I think Derek's a little bit closer to being ready. He's out of a cast. It's just time and bone healing. I think both of those injuries have impacted us, and I was really thinking about it across our athletic department, Cosmo, that this year seems to be the year of the impact injuries. I mean, you always have injuries, during a season. Sometimes you get lucky and you kind of make it through, but we've really had some impactful injuries to key players all across the department this year, and hopefully we can get Derek back and get him going for the stretch run.
Stretch run, get everybody healthy and back. The Cougars at home, and then a couple of February jam-packed, the full schedule of when the Cougars are at home, both men and women. A lot of doubleheaders with the conference play at Southwell Complex. So if you have an opportunity to come out and watch some Cougar basketball on the website, ColumbiaCougars.com. Quickly, when we come back, I want to talk about a couple of the other sports and pick your brain as the athletic director at Columbia College. And we'll be back with Bob Burchard right after this on MediaCom Channel 22.